They have their mic
All right, okay,
muted.
now can you hear us?
Yep, yep, good.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. So the agenda was amended, sorry. It was a request of Randy Barber to move item number 7 forward to follow item number it was the levy, the 7, to move forward after delegations. So we've moved that forward. So we are going to deal with the 2026 municipal levy vote, and that is because Mr. Barber has to leave the meeting. So there was so the vote was called, perhaps the chair wants to, does anybody opposed to that being moved forward? Okay, so I'm just presenting that report now. And so we're saying that the report was in the package. The budget criteria that was approved in September included an increase to the base levy of 3% and the overall levy of 3%. An allowance was built in of 3% for the salary grid, all to be effective January 1st, 2026. And at this time, because it is a weighted vote, so I would be reading each member's name and then the amount of their vote. And because Lance is not in the meeting, the vote will not be 100% present. It will be 99.7938 present. So very close to 100%. So a recorded, Tracy. Oh, yes, Tracy. Tracy, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick question. This is the budget as presented previously to the municipalities, correct?
Yes, this is only on the levy.
Okay, because we just approved our budget yesterday. So I imagine we're fine. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, we did meet the City of Kawartha Lakes criteria.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we call the vote on your amount? Not vote for the recommendation, but your amounts. Any questions?
So, and in accordance with the Act, we are not in the regulation. No municipality can carry more than 50%. And even though the current value assessment for Clarington is greater than 50%, we had to reduce it back to 50%. And the other 1.2393% was redistributed. Thank you. I didn't realize I wrote it in here. I was trying to do it from memory. Redistributed to the other municipalities. So I will read the names, read the percentage of your vote. If there are more than one member per municipality, then that percentage is split. So Randy Barber, Town of Cobourg, 10.6284%. Mark Lufshin, Township of Hamilton, 10.7473%.
Yay.
Vicky Mink, Municipality of Port Hope, 8.3628.
Yay.
Miriam Mouton, Town of Cobourg, 10.6284%.
Yes.
Adam Pearson, Municipality of Port Hope, 8.3628.
Yes.
Tracy Richardson, City of Kawartha Lakes, 0.0895%.
In favor.
Joan Stover, Township of Alnwick-Haldeman, 0.9825%.
Oh, I don't have that. Mine is 0. Is it the voting?
Yeah, it's 0. Oh, it should be. Why is that?
I've got a different number.
Yeah, I do too. I see it in the staff report. Okay, 0.9747%.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. Yay.
Willie Wu, Municipality of Clarington, 25%.
Yes.
Margaret Schwartz, Municipality of Clarington, 25%.
Yes.
So the total percentage here to vote is 99.7938%. And the 50% of the vote is to pass it is 49.8969, and it passed with 100% of the vote here.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So I still didn't final.
Yes.
All right, so now that we have that resolved, so I will call for the recommendation of the levy, which is that the GRCA Board of Directors approved the 2026 municipal levy vote staff report that includes the 2026 levy in the amount of $1,357,798 and a 3% increase in the salary grid effective January 1st, 2026. May I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Joan, seconded by Randy, and I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so we will now continue on with the agenda in order from here. So next we have presentations. First, we have the Ganaraska Forest Recreational User Committee Annual Report. The staff report is attached, and we have Bob here today to speak to us.
Great. Hi. Thank you all for inviting me. Yes, as she mentioned, you do have the written report. You're welcome to go through it. I will just kind of touch on some highlights, and then I'm certainly willing to take any questions or comments afterwards. And so I wanted to reiterate that it's been a pleasure chairing this committee. The committee is made up of what I would say is quite serious people. They have a good time and they're quite lighthearted, and they certainly have their characters brought to the table. But in fact, it's very clear that they're quite serious about the work that we do and caring for the forest. I also just wanted to mention that we are staffed by Pam and Ed, and we really appreciate the work they do for the committee. They have worked with us in terms of preparing reports. They present things to us as well as kind of help us during the meetings. And in a number of cases, our members have had issues and wanted to meet with them beyond the meeting, and they've been very accommodating for that. So I think I can speak for everyone that they really care about the fact that the staff is so supportive. We normally have 4 meetings a year, as you probably know. This year we only had 3. June was canceled, but in the 3 meetings we did have, they were well attended. And ever since I've been a chair, which is just basically about a year ago, I got appointed. They have all been well attended, and I would dare say virtually everyone that's a member is engaged and participating, which is not always true of all the committees I've been associated with. So I really appreciate that. Also, so in terms of kind of issues that come up, I would say that the main issue this year is the same main issue that we had last year, and that is the maintenance of the trails. There has been progress has been made on that front. And I think there is still more progress to be had. As you know, the users that are on the committee make up a wide variety of uses of the forest. And I'm always impressed by how there could very well be internal tensions between somebody who uses a horse and someone who uses a ATV or is a hiker. In fact, I find that the ability to work together and work through things within the committee is really quite impressive. And so I really appreciate that. Another area, so the other thing I'll just highlight, as I've mentioned in my report, is I would dare say, and this hasn't really come up in the meetings that much, although it has been mentioned, and that is that not a lot of people all of us on the committee are users, and some of us are heavy users, and I ride in the forest all the time. But I realize that most of the people who use the forest don't know about the user committee, don't have any idea, don't have any complaints per se with the user committee. But I think something that I would really like us to get our heads around and help out with in the next year is how to um, increase our visibility, and people who use the forest, you have the user committee as an entryway into connecting with the forest. And I say this is not a criticism as much as what it is that I think there's real opportunity. I think the Conservation Authority could really use support, could use people who are more actively engaged, who would help bring people in, would help communicate out to the networks, potentially donate volunteer time. And I think there's a big area for us to be able to increase in that regard. But certainly it's been, I think, generally a good year for the committee. And I did want to thank the staff who support us. And so I think I'll end there, and certainly take any questions or comments. Afterwards, I'm going to have to leave. I'm actually visiting my sister in the States for American Thanksgiving. So I'm about to go eat some turkey. So after the questions and that, I think I'm going to exit from the Zoom. Any questions or comments?
Okay. So we do have a couple questions. So I have
Oh, sure.
Willie is muted. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, good,
Willie.
yeah, good afternoon, everybody. And Bob, thank you very much for taking over as chair of the Ganaraska Recreational Users Committee. One comment that you made, and thank you very much for your year-end report. You mentioned about the over-reliance and acceptance of status quo ways. Now, do you feel that by adding to the membership that you would get those innovative new ideas?
I think so. I mean, as I said, there's both a positive and a negative about the fact that we have the same membership year after year, meeting after meeting. Not completely, but the turnover is very low. And obviously, the positive side is we have people who remember the institutional history, who actually have had experience on trying things. But what I was highlighting there, as you say, is that it tends to stick with the status quo. And there was a discussion, I raised it last year in my report, of actually adding other members. So this is an advisory board. We're not a decision-making board. So to me, having more voices would be better. So like I'm an equestrian. I ride in the forest all the time during riding season. I wouldn't mind another equestrian organization being at the table, and I think that goes for whether it be bikers or hikers or whatever. And I know at the moment we have a rule about the organization being like the provincial organization that represents you. And I'm not sure in every one of the user areas it's necessarily the provincial organization that has the real grassroots knowledge. And I think the more we can get people who use the forest on a regular basis to be on the committee, and particularly younger ones or different ones who are coming in afresh, I think the fresher ideas we will have. And so, yes, I do think expanding the membership would help with the idea of getting new blood and new ideas.
Okay. And my last question, I'm just looking at your minutes of the Recreational User Committee for November.
Right.
And it looks like you do have a wide representation from the different user groups, some that are absent with regret, some that are not, some of that are absent. But it seems like you have a good representation. Now, should you have term limits and maybe having different people from those different groups on there and mix it up?
I think term limits might help a bit. I must admit, I'm more interested in including than excluding, right?
Right.
So,
Okay.
I wouldn't mind, like in the equestrian, we have Jim, who represents the equestrian world, which is great.
Yeah.
And he's wonderful at the table. I'm not so much interested in letting him time out because he has such knowledge about equestrian activities. But it would be nice to have somebody who does very different types of equestrian sports in addition. Or, for instance, there used to be a Ganaraska Riders Club. So something that's small like that, that's not provincial, would also be helpful. Now, and my sense is that's true in the various different areas, whether it be biking or hiking or or bird watching.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much. And Bob, enjoy your turkey and happy Thanksgiving.
I shall.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have a question from Miriam.
Yes, Miriam.
Yes, hi, thank you. I noticed that the report that's in our agenda was dated about a couple of weeks ago, and you
Right.
mentioned that like, my question is, have you since become aware why the June meeting didn't happen? And moving forward, would you have any recommendations on frequency of meetings? That sort of thing.
Right. Oh, yes. This is an area I could keep you here all day on. But in terms of the meeting cancellation, I mean, I was told that there was an issue with one of the members. I was not told what it is, why it was, or why the meeting was canceled because of that. I will leave that up to you and staff. So I don't know why it happened. My recommendation at the time was that you don't cancel a meeting, you reschedule a meeting. So we could have, and I don't know when it is that that issue got resolved, but I would have preferred to continue having the 4 meetings as opposed to just going and having 3. And what I said in terms of like being able to keep here all day, I really do think that a user committee would benefit by meeting more than 4 times, not necessarily as a body. So I think 4 times a year schedule is a good schedule, but it would be nice if we could have subcommittees or groups that would meet in between meetings, because there are things that it would, I think, benefit to have us get our teeth into a little bit more than you can have if you aren't going to see a person. Like if you ask a question, you're not going to get an answer to it for 3 or for 4 months. That's quite a while. So I would say it would be nice to have more meetings. I don't think they have to be general meetings, but it'd be really nice to have in between meetings or even maybe committees that meet on a regular basis. But if we do end up canceling one of the 4, I would say if at all possible, reschedule it so that we actually do have 4 every year.
Any other questions from anyone? So I guess my question would be, if we wanted to revisit the terms of reference for the committee, what would be the process to do that? If that's something the board decided that we wanted to look and make sure it's still relevant and up to date, what would be the process for that?
You, Madam Chair, the terms of reference are revisited every April meeting.
Yeah, whenever our first
Yeah,
meeting after the AGM.
so they are revisited once a year. So at that point, they will be revisited again.
Okay, so that okay. So
that
next
will
year is
happen.
when that will
Yes.
happen again. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I
Is
guess
is that the April meeting of the authority or April meeting of the user committee?
For you, Miss, April meeting of the Recreational Users Committee, that they are brought forward, and then a recommendation would then go to the April meeting of this board.
I see. So when would that come to the user committee? I'm sorry.
April.
It would come to April, and then after that, it would then go to the authority.
Because we would look at your recommendation.
That would be great. I would love to go through it and have the committee go through it. And as I said, the main thing in terms of like structure would be this like being able to meet between meetings.
Okay. Sorry, Pam is correcting me. I'll let her speak to it.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, Mrs. Chair. The way we've done it in the past is, yes, every year the terms of reference is reviewed. And the idea is it's the board's terms of reference for the committee. So I think it's the March meeting, whatever one is after the AGM, our first business back meeting, the recommendations come forward so that for the April RUC meeting, they are with a revised terms of reference if there's any changes. Now, that doesn't mean that part of the process, we couldn't involve a fulsome discussion at the 2 board and the committee level. It's just we try to have any revised terms of reference coming at the beginning of that year's meeting, because there's only 4 of them.
Thank you. That is, because the Recreational Users Committee is a committee of the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority Board of Directors. That's why it is done in that way. But again, that doesn't negate any discussion during the presentation to the Recreational Users Committee that could come back to the board.
Right. I would really like it to have the user committee be able to, at one of their meetings, have a fulsome discussion and make suggestions to you, the authority, for you then to take those into considerations when you're evaluating it.
Okay, so at Port Hope anyway, with our committees, the terms of references are sent to the committee members usually a couple months in advance for committee members to look at the terms of reference, and then it's discussed within that committee. And then it comes forward to council. So is that something, I think if you try to bring terms of reference into the user committee meeting, that could go on forever. But if people had time to review it in advance and then come to the committee with any recommendations, then that could be forward from there. Would that work?
That would be great. If we got them sent to us in advance prior to a user committee meeting, at the user committee, make suggestions and maybe pass a recommendation or two, and then that go to the board to decide on the wisdom of those suggestions.
Do we need a motion for that, or is that just business that would
It
happen?
could just be business that can happen.
Okay.
We've made a note of it.
Okay, all right.
Great.
Okay, any other questions, or do we let Bob go for Thanksgiving?
Receive this for information.
Sure. Okay, so we will receive the report for information. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mark, seconded by Miriam. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Happy
Great.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, so moving on with presentations. The next presentation we have is Ganaraska Forest Year in Review, and Pam will be giving us that report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to come up here so I can see better, get my presentation started. Give me one moment. I need to share. And before I get too involved in the presentation, I know last meeting there was maybe a little bit of technical difficulties with the slide advancement. So I just want to test that out before we go. So I'm assuming everybody on Zoom sees the full screen of the PowerPoint.
Yep, got one thumbs up there. So
Okay, and then I'm just going to advance the screen. And does that change for you as a full page? Great, okay.
yay.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of the board and staff. My presentation tonight is going to be a year in review of the Ganaraska Forest with a glimpse into 2026. So I'm going to take you back to January, February, and March, when we had what one would consider a more normal winter with lots of snow. We had lots of people enjoying snowmobiling, snowshoeing, and cross-country skiing. Staff were busy grooming and track setting our around 25 kilometers of ski trail. And we're starting to groom out some of our snowshoe trails as well, just to help with the trail conditions. As winter began to let go in March, the forest was blanketed with a layer of ice, just like many of our own properties throughout the region. The ice storm did cause service disruptions, both at the forest center and throughout the forest. As staff waited for power to be restored, we got to work fixing all of our rental spaces and program spaces around the center so that they were safe for when we were able to bring our rental groups and education programs back into the forest. And then once trail conditions improved in the forest, we got out to do trail work and clearing trails, starting at all the trailhead locations. We also focused on getting the loggers back into the forest because we were in the midst of our timber tender process. And so that got paused got delayed as a result of the ice storm. But just after Easter, the forest reopened to the allowable uses of that time, which is hiking and hunting. At the end of April, we welcomed military training exercises as part of the larger Northumberland County initiative. And so we had a military and civilian unit come into the West Forest and help clear trails. Quite conveniently, their scenario was natural disaster response and recovery, so quite fitting for the forest. So we do thank them for their service. On May 1st, the forest reopened as per usual to all the allowable motorized and non-motorized uses. We had lots of people to be happy back out on the trails after a long winter. And since many of the trails up north especially were still closed because of the ice storm. With that opening, there was a request out into the user community that they can lend a hand by reporting to us, to staff, any trail blockages, down trees, trail erosion, any concerns that they might have. This is something that we have year round, where people can take a screenshot with the Ganaraska Forest Trail map to show where they are in the forest and send a picture of the thing that they see and email it to volunteer@grca.on.ca. And then staff go and assess what they've seen. If we find that that situation is on municipal rights of ways or lands, we do send it on to that particular municipality. So as we moved into June, we welcomed lots of summer contract staff. It's always nice to get an influx of help. So we had one person who was tasked more so with conservation areas, but when projects needed or time allowed, they would come into the forest to lend a hand. We have 2 contract staff that are still with us right now supporting forest management. So things like invasive species control, such as our periwinkle in the picture, doing tree planting inspections. So last fall, we had 10,000 villages donate money, and we're able to use that money to do some underplanting in the forest along with Trees Canada funds. So they checked on the survivability of the trees, and they're also doing forest inventory work. So they go out into certain compartments, collect additional data, especially in our hardwoods. And this information is going to go towards a near future update to the forest management plan. And then finally, we had 4 individuals tied with our GIS department who did trail inspections alongside staff. So this is a new requirement through our insurance and liability side of things that we have to inspect our trails at least annually. So we do all of the mapped trails and on foot or by vehicle. There's a series of questions that are asked of the trail, and it's in an app. And if that trail fails the inspection, that segment, we do close it until staff are able to address that situation, and then we reopen it. So they had a busy summer walking, especially our single track trails. As we moved into summer, more so, we had lots of special events occurring. We started the summer with being a host location for the Adventure Relay, which is put on by the Oak Ridges Trail Association. And at the opposite end of the summer, the Ganny Enduro, which is a mountain bike endurance race. So these events happen primarily throughout the Central and West Forest with some use of the Ganaraska Forest Center as well. We also were a film location for 2 vehicle commercials. That's what the little image is of the GMC. That's not one of our vehicles. That's the social media commercial that was done. So it's a great way to bring some additional revenue into the forest. And so then as we moved into August, we kind of forgot about the ice, and it was dry and hot with no precipitation in the forecast. And because of that, this whole area was under an extreme fire risk, as probably many of you know through your member municipalities. And of course, Tracy will for sure understand with City of Coastal Lakes and the fires that were burning up there. So with those risks, we were in constant communication with member municipality fire chiefs, Northumberland County Forest, and various provincial ministry, as well as MPP Piccini. We put out a call to our user community again, saying that you have a role to be vigilant while in the forest, undertaking your activity, to be mindful of your own risk with those activities, that fires are never permitted in the forest or on any of our conservation lands. And if you ever see or smell smoke or see fire, to please call 911 immediately. But we were fortunate enough. I know there was a lightning strike that was very close in the municipality of Port Hope, and I was happy it was up there and not in the forest. But as we moved, oh, the other thing we did too is we did stop some operations. So during those hot times, we did not bring the tractor into the forest with our mower or our chipper because we felt that those were too high risk activities with that type of machines. But as we moved into September, cooler temperatures, more precipitation, and we were able to resume those activities. In September and throughout the summer, we were busy installing forest markers throughout the central forest. We're still doing it. It's kind of one of those things, as we're not doing the other projects, we keep at it. So I don't really want to play with the screen too much, but you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, there is an image of what our trail markers look like there. So there's 6x6 signs that are color-coded to the colored name of the trail with the words on it. They're to help with navigation. They're installed every 50 or 75 meters apart, depending on the trail configuration. They complement our digital trail maps that are found online and on our web app. Those maps can also be printed out if somebody does want to bring a paper map into the forest for the day that they're there. And they also complement all the new trailhead signs that we put in last year through Greenbelt funding support. So that was, more September. So as we moved into the latter part of October and just earlier this week, we continued with some trail work. We improved and relocated about 1 kilometer of trail in the Central Forest, the Orange Trail B Loop. Some of the relocating was around what was becoming a hazardous trail situation. And just Tuesday, we finished upgrading over 25 kilometers of trail throughout the East, Central, and West Forests with new trail grading guidelines for our contractor. This is done in partnership with the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Club. It gets their trails prepped again for winter, and it helps put our trails in a better place in the spring when we open up again. So it's been a busy year, but these are just kind of the highlights of what 2025 has looked like. The end of the year, we do look back at what is our usage looking like. So I did some quick number crunching with our store information when people purchase day passes or memberships and on our kiosk. So we're sitting around 1,200 members plus. We had over 5,000 day pass visits, which means with the 11,000 plus visits, so for a membership holder to make good use of the membership value, it means they should come into the forest a minimum of 5 times rather than, spending 5 day passes. And then, it's kind of a good deal in that sense. So, using that number, that puts us over those 11,000 visits. So that does not include all of the guests that stay at the Forest Center over the weekends and summer months and use the trails from the center, nor does it include the use of students through the programming and learning under the canopy of the forest. So as we look into 2026, I just wanted to pick on kind of 3 topics. Of course, we're going to continue to do our day-to-day operations and management of the forest, including all the conservation areas and the buildings that the Lands Department and other staff are tasked with doing. We're going to continue to do our annual trail inspections, and we have some things that we want to improve upon for 2026, because this year, 25, was our pilot year. But then I wanted to talk to the other 3 topics. So when it comes to signage, signage is a priority of the authority. This is something that we hear of through the Recreational Users Committee and the user community at large, that there needs to be more signs in the forest to support being out there. But of course, we don't want to over-sign it either. So it's finding that balance and having clear messaging on authority-approved signs. So signage topics include, again, the navigation, traffic control, especially at our intersections or road crossings, explaining and showing property rules, as well as defining property boundaries or change in use. And again, the sign there in the bottom right shows we have no hunting zone areas, so we have to say this is a no hunting zone. We are fortunate to have this ability in-house for designing, and we are finding local manufacturers that are reasonably priced in this world to give us really high quality signs. And for those who came today, and for those on Zoom, please visit the main office, because we've just reinstalled all the signs on the property with this new look and feel and quality of sign. So they're out there right now. So for 26, we want to complete Central Forest. We have a few more topical signs we want to put up, but we're near completion. And then everything that we've learned with using the Central Forest, it's kind of a pilot. We're going to start applying in the west and east. We do have budget set aside in our operations to support signage, but of course, we always find other opportunities. So fortunately, this year, TD Friends of the Environment Foundation provided a grant that we'll be using to support additional signage in 26. Another favorite topic is volunteer opportunities. Again, here quite loudly through RUC and the user community. Volunteers will always have a role in the forest on all of our programs to that extent too. But we were finding that we needed to revamp, redevelop, and reintroduce new programs that made the application process way more clear and easy to do, both from application and a review. Having clear expectations of what the volunteers are being asked to do, and time commitments. When we're running a program that's meant to be a year long, we're hoping that they can at least give like 35 hours, which is like a 1 week equivalent to us, to staff, to do effort in the forest. In the past, our volunteer program was more, what do you want to do, where do you want to do it, and how? And we found that that was not the most effective way maybe to move things forward. So right now we are doing it on a project-based thing. So staff, especially through our inspections, will say, okay, this trail needs help, right? More maintenance. We want to improve it, or we pick up on an old trail footprint and let's move that one forward. And we do that with support, staff giving support to the volunteers, and also supervision of that. So that means that we're looking still at the group volunteer trail maintenance program, the one here I've kind of on the image. We're also looking at individual volunteer opportunities that will work closer with staff, and hosting some volunteer events where people can just show up on the day and do. So we're looking forward to additional opportunities, and we hope that the community will take us up on it. The last topic is trail availability, and I know this is something that was being asked at the board last meeting. I wasn't able to attend. So I wanted to just kind of start with where we are right now. So currently, the forest has about 350 kilometers of trail available for multi-use. Of course, we have our motorized and non-motorized areas. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Corey's just going to let somebody in. So that distance is equivalent from driving from the forest to Barrie or Kingston or Hamilton and back. We have a lot of trails that we're already managing. But so what we have to do is consider when what we're considering when adding additional trails to the network. So they need to be planned to make sure they make sense with the existing trails that are in operation. We have to think about access, and Lance has joined at kind of the right time, because one of the conversations we're having with the Township of Cavan-Monaghan is access at the north end of the Central Forest for a growing community of Millbrook. And so that's something that we're talking about, is we need some better infrastructure up there, because we hear that from the community as well, that they don't want to drive all the way back around the forest to get in at the bottom. But along with that too, so it doesn't matter if we're creating a new trail or reviving one, we have to think about the capital resources that go into that. That's human, it can be staff, it can be volunteers, but also financial. But more importantly, I would say, is the ongoing maintenance of those trails. So we can open a trail, say it's open, and we have a really growthy year with precipitation, vegetation growth. And if we can't keep up on that maintenance, we lose them again, especially in some of our non-motorized areas. So that is something we have to consider when talking about trail availability. So things in 2026 that will support additional trails being made available. And I know I sound like a broken record about the trail, the agreements with our member municipalities. We are working with all of your municipal, well, not all of them, but the 4 municipalities around the forest with staff, municipal staff, to see these agreements over the finish line. We are very close with the City of Kawartha Lakes. They were kind of our pilot, and what we've developed with them, we have shared at the end of October with Cavan-Monaghan, Municipality of Port Hope, and Municipality of Clarington. When these agreements are finalized, trails will become available, but it also means that we have to improve some of those trail locations, especially where they cross municipal road allowances, to meet the terms of the agreement. I have meetings with Clarington next week to discuss the draft. The other thing we'll be focusing in 2026 is improving the maintenance of the trails that we already have opened, and specific to the single track trail in the Central Forest. So in 24, last year, staff opened up around 5 kilometers of single track in the Central Forest at the south end. But it did get overgrown, and we tried to do some maintenance, but again, the setup with those trails weren't as what we need them to be to get our equipment on the trails for better maintenance, more efficient. So we're hoping with the volunteer community that will be some of our first project sites to work on. And then we can look at focusing on select single track opening in the Central Forest, kind of that mid 2026. I will say with this, there's always kind of this desire to say, May 1st, let's have more trails open. Totally understand. We will, at a staff level, do our best to do that, but also keep in mind that in that forest, it stays winter much longer, and we don't have the ground conditions that are either safe or just even that can support us doing trail work. We have about a 2-week window in late April, if we're lucky, maybe a bit earlier, depending on what the weather's doing, that we can kind of get out there and make progress, I would say. But at the same time, we're trying to make sure everything else in the forest is good for what we already have open. So to promise a May 1st opening, it's, you know, if we get the weather conditions, we will do the best that we can. Otherwise, we're looking at more, you know, June, early July type thing on some of the trails. So with that, thank you for your time. I try to be really quick, but I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. That was great. A lot of information. Okay, so I will open up to questions. I see Joan ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wondered, you're wanting to get more volunteers, and what is the process? Do you have an opening day and an event where everybody can come in and you get the word out? I guess a Facebook page and.
Yeah, to you, Madam Chair. So with for example, the group trail maintenance program, that's ready to go. So our plan is to start communicating it in the month of December to generate the interest in applications. There is a bit of an interview process. In some ways, it's no different than applying for a job in some sense. So we do talk to the organization, and then we vet it through the process. And so then it kind of depends, you know, the events, it is literally, hey, we're doing this on this day, please show up, and hopefully they come out. But there's always an element of training for any of them. It could be just a quick presentation about safety and here's what you need to do, or it's a little bit more involved.
Just one more, if I may, Madam Chair. How many volunteers do we have?
Yeah, so you, Madam Chair. In 25, we did not actually have any organizations working with us. The program was out there, but it wasn't taken up. We do look for volunteers though through other means. We had Royal Bank of Canada do some volunteer employees do volunteer work with us. And next week we're having Trinity College come out. So we still do have volunteer work, but not at the level that we need to see big progress in the, especially on the trails.
And what would be the number that you'd be looking for that? In the sky.
Well, I would say it this way. Sometimes there's too many volunteers, right? So it's a manageable amount for the project that we're doing, but we need that pool so that, because not everybody can always give the time on those days. So if we have a pool of volunteers, to be honest, you know, 50, 100, like when we did our pilot in 2023, 4, we did one. We had 77 people trained, but only, I'm trying to remember now, a smaller amount actually came out and did the work. So, yeah, we need the big pool to
Thank you.
to come.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And just to go on that, so my thoughts too is that we do have the recreational user committee who has a pool of people at their disposal. And I think my wish list would be that it may not be their use, but they would collaborate together and maybe one time everybody gets together and does, one type of trail and then they move to the next trail as it's needed, right? So hopefully that can get started and people can work together and see that, helping one user group out, that they'll be next down the line. So hopefully. Any other questions for? So we have Miriam, and then I'll get to those online in a minute.
Oh, yeah, thanks for the presentation. My question has to do, would the board hear about any research, like for example, grads not necessarily undergrads, but graduate level research that uses trail cams and maybe investigating just kind of sort of pie in the sky, access to nature and social health, like I mean, I read about doctors writing prescriptions of go take a walk, that sort of thing. Is there any involvement with regards to the forest and the conservation authority on those two aspects?
Yeah, so you, Madam Chair. So from an education base, obviously we have the authority has its outdoor education program.
Yeah.
We do give permission for various classes, undergrad, specific studies to come into the forest or organizational base to do research work or collect data. So that occurs on all of our properties wherever they want to put their plots. From kind of that social side of things, the opportunity is always there, and we have talked to various universities about kind of that more relationship of recreation and connection to nature. So the offer is always there. We would always welcome that. But I would also say that through Conservation Ontario, that's where a lot more of that kind of a grad will say, I have this survey, can somebody answer it? Or, we'll do an interview, and we always try to participate in that for the greater good of what the value of conservation areas and the conservation authorities are to public health, especially. So although I don't have a specific, right now, this is happening, the opportunity is there and we welcome it at any time.
Thank you. So I think I had a bunch of hands up there. So Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Pam, what you showed our visitors and you showed our membership and so forth. How does that compare to where we were before that major storm about 4 years ago? Are we ahead? Have we lost many, or where are we with that?
Yeah, Susie, through you, Madam Chair. I don't have the actual numbers, but I would say we are lower than what the storm was in our memberships. But I would say that our day pass use is, well, and I honestly don't know the numbers, but I would feel that our day pass uses are still quite good.
Well, rather than put you on the spot, could you maybe bring that to the next meeting that we could see those results, just see where we are?
Yeah, and through Madam Chair and Linda, we can look to see what data we would have to support some of that. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for the question. Any other questions, comments? Tracy?
Well, I think most of my questions were answered. So very good presentation, Pam, and it really shows, what's happened in the last year and what you guys are planning for the next. My one concern again is that engaging that level of volunteers, right? Do we have an existing trail app? And if we do, we can push out notifications to those certain trails where you're looking for volunteers. Just different ways of engaging and bringing people into the fold, because if they're already in a certain part of the forest and using it, that's where you need your volunteers. It might be an opportunity to send direct messaging to those folks that are using the apps and whatnot. Also, the signage is incredible. I just go through our conservations in Kawartha, and I have a lot of them down here in the south end of Kawartha. And we've had a rash of theft and vandalism in the last couple of months. And I'm just, if that's a major concern for you folks as well.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, definitely across all of our properties, we have some that are more prone to more so graffiti but we see it all. Fortunately, we've been pretty good up in the forest, but it is something we are mindful of. The signage, we have considered that as much as possible so that it's kind of hopefully somewhat cleanable, especially from certain like paints and stuff like that. But we do watch them, and you know, if there's a need to do a full replacement or fix the broken thing, it is part of life in that sense. So. And sorry, and just to that point too, sometimes our own wildlife does, like porcupines love things. So it's not always human, it is sometimes wildlife damage as well.
I'll take the natural damage over the human damage any day. And just maybe one last comment is you did mention about those municipal partner agreements, and I do want to say that I have spoken to City of Kawartha Lake staff, and they have been engaged with you and working, and they said it's been a pleasant experience. So I'm encouraging the other municipalities to jump on board as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? So I just have one question, and it kind of triggered my thought when you were talking about fires in the forest. And I hear this a lot, especially from our own community here in Port Hope that has great concern about any forest in the fire. Fire in the forest. And I guess my question specifically, and this is something I've always thought about, is the Ganaraska Trail. It starts in Port Hope and goes to Collingwood. It's about a day's walk to the forest. So I'm wondering, is there ever any signs of people camping in the forest with fires that are on that trail?
Well, through you. Yeah, so camping either in tents or RVs or, you know, there's different forms of that does occur in the forest through many places. We have seen it in connection with those more regional trails where, you know, they're doing it end to end. It is something, and it's something that we speak to that with the trail organization. Generally, though, I would also say it's sometimes more on that road allowance transition rather than kind of dead center of the forest. But then tied with that, yes, although we always say fires are not permitted in any form, our officers, when we're doing patrols, are usually saying that needs to go out, and sometimes it goes beyond just telling them to do that, or we see the evidence of it.
Right. So I guess you sort of answered my questions, whether they were kind of generally the same spots most of the time that you will see that.
Yeah. And so we, yes, and we use that.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a quick question. So we're making a lot of changes to add in the extra signage so that people know where they should be and where they shouldn't be. Enforcement, what are we doing for enforcement, and how often are we actually enforcing anything?
Yeah, great question to you, Madam Chair. So we do have an enforcement team. It is contracted out, and earlier this year, the board appointed I think 8 individuals to that role. Plus we do have staff who are in that role as well. So this year, actually, we've been out there quite a bit. My last count 21 times, I believe. And I might be a little off on that. And so it is noticed, and even just having the presence out there sometimes is enough. Yeah, and they're doing a good job. There's always they're getting to know the forest as well, so there's that kind of learning curve. There's a lot to it, but and they're going to be with us again next year as well.
And then just a quick follow-up. Do we have metrics on if any offenses have even been written throughout the year?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but yes, we have issued ticket citations, whatever the proper word is. Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Miriam.
Just talking about tickets, violations, etc. On any contract that's in the forest, do you have a section that says these activities are not permitted? Because when we toured the forest, I was surprised at all the cigarette butts.
Okay, so 2-part question there. So yes, on our permits, we say, you know, in easy, none of this is allowed. However, the permit system can allow it to happen if staff and the approval process feel that, okay, you know, this can happen over here, whatever that may be. So the permit is there to support different uses when that's appropriate, I guess I would say. When it comes to smoking, and I'm looking kind of at Linda with that too, I believe that the Smoke Free Ontario Act does not actually speak to smoking in like what the forest is or conservation areas. We have it with our grounds, like buildings, but it doesn't speak to that. So we would have to introduce our own property rule because nothing's under the Conservation Authorities Act, nothing's in any other legislation in that sense. So to make the forest smoke free, the authority would have to pass its own property rule and then obviously enforce on that. No, sorry, it's further that littering is something that's not permitted. So if we, just like any bylaw, like I'm sure, like in general sense, if you're caught throwing that piece of litter or that cigarette butt and that officer or bylaw, whoever for municipal or CA was there, I guess they could do something there, but
It's, Madam Chair, it's not good for wildlife either, right? Just the litter generally and butts, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? That was great discussion. So the recommendation is that the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority receives the Ganaraska Forest Year in Review presentation for information. And I'm moving our seconder I'm looking for. Anybody different than Adam? Anyone? No. So moved by Adam, seconded by Margaret. Thank you. And not personal items, but anybody here. Okay, so moving along. So we've already done number 7. We moved that forward. So next is 8 correspondence. We have 4 correspondence. So do we go through them one at a time or just?
We can do the 2 together. We can do 0, 3, and 4 together because they'll be moved.
Okay, so we'll go forward with the first 2 pieces of correspondence. So 0325 from Charlotte Batty, an email regarding mountain bike access, and then 025 Julie Hunt, an email regarding the Ganaraska Forest.
Madam Chair, there are some pictures associated with the 0425 from Julie Hunt that we're just going to put up that she did. So they were very small pictures, so we had staff put them in and to try to get better pictures. So these are ones that she had submitted.
Okay.
and there are Zoom people see that.
Can everybody on online see those pictures? Yep, thumbs up from Mark.
And I'm not sure that she took them or they were images from some other place. We recognize a few, so that's why we're not sure. So, but anyways, the suggestion is through Madam Chair that these 2 pieces of correspondence be referred through to the Recreational Users Committee.
Okay, so that is the recommendation. Is there any comments or discussion?
Just to clarify, the photos will be sent on as part of the correspondence. Thank you.
Really?
Yeah, through the chair, and we just had a great presentation from Pam about the Ganaraska Forest Year in Review. And Pam spoke about annual trail inspection, signage, volunteer opportunities. I think this Julie Hunt spoke about Great Pine Trail Riders hoping to offer support in keeping our Ganaraska Forest open. So should we send her this PowerPoint? And if they're interested in volunteering, there is a formal application process. The work that you are doing, Pam, is great. The 350 kilometers of trails, plus wanting to add existing trails. So when I look at what she is saying and then listening to your presentation, I can't see where she has all these issues, but I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not out there like she is and seeing what she's seeing, but I think you're trying to do the best, and especially after the 2022 windstorm. So I don't know how you would even how the recreational user committee would respond to that, other than we're doing our best.
I think the message going from the presentation that we just had is that there are volunteer opportunities, and hopefully
Yeah.
those who will come forward through the process of volunteering, rather than relying on external groups. That we do have a process for volunteering, and I think that's the recreational user committee's responsibility, is to filter that information through users. And there are user groups outside of the recreational user committee to make them aware of the volunteer opportunities. I think that would be the process. So, anything else that anybody wanted to add to that? That's my thoughts to that.
Okay.
So you've got a recommendation on the floor? Yep, so we have a recommendation then to forward this to the recreational user committees, these two reports. Mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Tracy, seconded by Lance. I'll ask all in favor. And that is carried. And the next two, the note and file. Okay, so the next two is 0525 Essex Conservation regarding resolution 9025, Bill 68 ERO posting. And then 0625 United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. Yep, so I'm going to pass this over to Linda for a moment to speak to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to let the board know that since those two, there's probably been 10 others that are coming forward. I think in a lot of cases, they're also circulated to your municipalities. I may, by December 22nd, try and gather these up and send them out all at once rather than piecemeal. But know that in all the CCing, I'm noticing that that your municipalities are also being copied on. So those are just a sample
Okay,
of the ones that are coming through now.
great. Those are just note and file. So the resolution for this is for note and file, unless there's any discussion. Okay, so I will ask for a mover and a seconder for resolution as stated, Sue Hart and Joan. And all in favor? And that is carried. So moving along is the applications under Ontario Regulation 4124 and Conservation Authorities Act permits approved by the executive, and that is attached as usual. Any questions about any of the permits? Okay, so I will ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the permits. Moved by Adam, seconded by Tracy. All in favor? And that is carried. And next is committee reports. So for we have the Ganaraska Forest Recreational Users Committee meeting minutes from November 6, 2025. Any discussion on the minutes? So I will ask a seconder to receive the minutes. Okay, Miriam?
No, we're good. Thank you.
So we had Lance. Did you have your hand up, Lance? Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. So I'm moving a seconder for the meeting minutes to receive those for information. All right. So we have Lance now, a seconder, Mark, and I'll ask all in favor. And that is carried. So next is new business. We have the regulated area mapping update. The staff report is attached. Did you want to speak to it?
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair, as per Ontario Regulation 4124 made under the Conservation Authorities Act, all conservation authorities must at least once annually review regulated areas mapping and determine if updates are required. Make and file such updates to the maps at its head office if required, and make the updated maps available to the public on its website and by any other means it considers advisable. We are obligated to notify municipalities and the public for significant updates, for instance, new floodplain mapping for the Ganaraska River or a shoreline study. Any kind of minor updates, for instance, staff observations on site, like a wetland, do not require that going to the public. We recorded no significant updates in 2025. And updates are undertaken and mapping is updated and available online at this time. GRCA has developed an internal process for minor mapping updates. And this year we had 23 minor updates and 0 major updates.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion about this report? Okay, so the recommendation is that Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority receives the regulated areas mapping update for information. And may I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Miriam. Seconded by Margaret. And I'll ask all in favor. And that is carried. And next we have CA Act amendments as per Bill 68 update. And there is a staff report attached. I think it was also circulated earlier, and I'll ask Linda if she has anything to say about that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the staff report, I'll go through it briefly, but I will let you know that as of today, Bill 68 received royal assent. So yes. So within Bill 68, so on October 31st, 2 things happened during the media release and during the so there was a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning with the CAOs and the chairs of all the conservation authorities in the province of Ontario. It was a briefing that it actually had been put off a week. It was supposed to happen on November 25th, but I believe because of October. Thanks, Corey. I believe that things that happened with some of the tariffs and things that happened the week before, our briefing was put off. It was put off until October 31st. And so at 8 o'clock, briefing was held in which Chair Mink and myself were present. And within that, and then as a subsequent media release, Minister McCarthy, along with Hassan Bassat, who is the Chief Conservation Officer with the province, announced that 2 things. They announced that through Bill 68, Schedule 3, there would be a creation of an Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And this report outlines all of the objects of that agency, how it would be funded, and everything that is going to be happening. The agency, the first officer will be appointed by the province. The agency will be governed by a board of directors that will be appointed through the province, and they will offer directions and directives to the conservation authorities. The second part of the announcement is the consolidation of the 36 conservation authorities into 7 regional conservation authorities. So as I stated earlier, the first part, Bill 68, has received royal assent. The second part, which is the consolidation, is now into an environmental registry, and the commenting period on that is open until December 22nd. So the ERO posting is 025-1257. And I believe a lot of the municipalities, or all of the municipalities, have received notices. I also, as the information came forward, I was emailing it out to all the board members with the links so that they could follow that. So this ERO posting is open, as I've said, until December 22nd. So what we're doing is meeting as conservation authorities and meeting today. I had an Eastern Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority discussion over the proposed Regional Conservation Authority. And we are trying to gather information. I also want to let you know that I'm not sure how wide this invitation went. Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we received an invitation from MECP with regards to a discussion period that's going to be held in Vaughan on Monday, December 1st, from 2 to 5. I am not sure if it went to any municipal representatives or it went to mayors. I've heard it's gone to a few mayors. I don't know who those mayors are. I do know a couple, not within our watershed. I don't know if any within our watershed. We received an invitation to that. Unfortunately, because of my inability to travel, I will not be going. I have asked Corey to go. And if any board member would like to attend that meeting, we can take 2 people can go to that meeting. So I'm opening it up. Some people can let me know at the end if anybody is interested, or you can put your name forward. If you're interested now, it would be traveling to Vaughan with Corey and sitting in on this meeting. What we can gather from this meeting that will be held in Vaughan is it looks like it's not just the Eastern Lake Ontario Conservation or Regional Conservation Authority. So those 7 conservation authorities, of which I think I, as I've mentioned in my report, we are part of a bigger group of 7. So it includes Central Lake Ontario Conservation Authority, Kawartha, Otonabee, Crow, Quinte, Lower Trent, ourselves, and I hope that's 7 that I named. The area of that, so we're going from our 932 or 52 goes to the size of approximately smaller or bigger than Jamaica. I use that. It's a huge area that's covered. The population is of the area goes from our 190 or 93 roughly to in some cases the population of provinces in Ontario. So it's a huge area that is being proposed. So as I've said, the meeting December or on Monday is the Eastern Lake Ontario region. It is the Toronto region, which is going to be renamed Central Lake Ontario. And then the other Lake Ontario region that I can't remember, Western Lake Ontario. So all of those are going to be meeting in Toronto or in Vaughan on Monday. Then there's been another meeting called for Tuesday. Nobody knows exactly who's involved in that. And then I believe, and I think that one's in Collingwood. We're not invited to that. And then there's another meeting going to be held in Ottawa on Friday. This information has just come out like at noon today. I was on a call. I've been on calls. That's the great beauty of Zoom. I haven't been missing meetings. So with this conservation authority, I believe the report has laid everything out. We're still trying to understand the concept of the consolidations because our understanding is there will be no job loss. The programs will carry on, and we believe that the local presence will still be here. So our office will still be here. So we're just not understanding the concept of why we are moving from the individual conservation authorities to this regional. In fact, what will the board of directors look like? So the board of directors, this board of directors stays in effect until October 26th of 2026, which is the election. Then it ceases to exist. Not sure what the next steps are. This conservation authority, as many in the province, do follow the guidelines for permitting. We have a time schedule that we follow, and in more than 98% of our permitting, closer to 100, we meet those targets. So again, not sure what the province is targeting with that. Our recommendation is they lay out those standardizations. And if there are conservation authorities in the province, and I'm not saying there's not, that don't have the expertise in-house, you know, maybe look at some amalgamations with the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority. And I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. We've got some of the best staff in the province of Ontario. We've got the expertise in-house, so much so that we have staff sharing arrangements with other conservation authorities. And that's how we do it in conservation authorities. You know, you get that big bang for the buck, because if somebody else doesn't have it, we have it. And so we will share those staff. We've done it with some of our neighboring conservation authorities. So basically what this report is laying out, you know, as much as we know, because there's still a lot of unknown of what this consolidation is proposing. And there is a recommendation at the end that I realize is lengthy, and that you know, the chair can go through it, and that we're looking for support, and then that would lead to the chair reaching out and writing a letter and asking all of you and through your municipalities to also support. As I've said, a lot of municipalities are writing, some conservation, some have done it on their own. Some conservation authorities haven't had meetings yet. Some are bringing them forward early December. But because this is our last meeting prior to December 22nd is when this needed to be brought forward. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I guess just a few things before we open it up for discussion is, if you want to attend the meeting on Monday, maybe when it's time to log off, and we do have another quick meeting after this, don't go away yet, stay and then we'll take consideration of anybody who wants to go at that time. And so I think it's also important that the deadline is to send the letter is December 22nd, right? So
Into comments into the ERO. So from your municipalities, from individuals, from organizations within your communities.
so we would need to get a letter drafted quite quickly so we can get that onto our agendas for our municipalities. Okay, so I will open it up before I guess, should I read the whole recommendation at some point?
It's up to the.
Okay, well, before we do that, is there any discussion, questions? It's a huge, heavy topic, so, okay, we'll go ahead, Miriam.
Yeah, thank you. I did read the report, and I would support the recommendation. I just, a question, I won't be able to attend Monday, but could I send some questions, with you or whoever goes?
Or meet you, Madam Chair. That would probably, we are not aware of the format. We don't know if there is a question and answer. You can certainly do that, but we have not been told of the format of this.
If I may continue, so just yesterday I attended a provincial, was it yesterday or the day before? Oh my goodness, everything's a blur. A provincial presentation on the items. And what struck me is that, and I'm concerned because just to compare, they said, well, we'll cover costs for 2 years, but then we're going to figure out how we're going to pay for this. Well, I would like you to know, since Cobourg hosts court services, our costs in 1 year have gone up 61%. And I'm looking at this proposal and going, what's the future hold? And I, hope I'm not overreacting, but when it's top down, I'm not, I don't have the full confidence that there's an appreciation on the impact on lower tier. So now an observation I'd like to share is that it seems to be an adjustment of watershed boundaries, but as we all know, municipalities are not based on watershed boundaries. We haven't fixed anything with this. I'm sorry, I'm blunt, but we haven't fixed anything. And further to what your comment is, I heard this at the presentation through some questions that were asked and what you've just mentioned today, Linda, is, you know, where's the report on, you know, have they adjusted the standards, the reporting standards, the protocols? Like, what have they done? Where is the report that identifies what the big problems are that they're trying to fix? I haven't seen that. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. Anyway, I'll stop there. I'm just kind of seeing this train come down the track and it's like, I'm a little concerned.
So with that said, thank you very much. I think those are repeated questions that I have certainly heard, and I think all of us hear the exact same feelings as you have just expressed. So you're not alone at all. So thank you for sharing that. Any other questions, comments from anyone? So just before we're going, I did do an interview with Robert Washburn for Consider This. So he will be editing things out. So I'm not sure how that will come across too, but that's going to be coming out soon, probably tomorrow. So go ahead, Tracy.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. No, I was just going to make a comment. Like you said, there's so many unknowns, and should they be pausing, advocating for a pause on this, and evaluating, what's the fallout going to be, and what are the metrics going to be to measure the new system is actually more efficient? Like, there's so many unknown questions, and I know Kawartha Conservation is sending a letter. And I also know that the City of Kawartha Lakes has a memorandum on our December 9th council meeting to do the same.
Great, thank you. Good to know. Any other questions, comments? Hopefully everyone can do the same, and it is private as well. I think you're able to send your own comments as well as an individual. So.
Yes, if I could, I'm not sure where I read it. I think it was on the end of that some effort to contact Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, I think MECP. There was a response from that ministry that they were understaffed. Now it may not relate to this, but there was something, and I apologize, I can't remember what it was. So I have a question with regards to also, have they demonstrated they have the capacity to move on this? So lots of questions, and I look forward to your interview.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm a little nervous of it, but okay, so good discussion. Does anybody want me to read the recommendation out, or is everybody comfortable to receive it as written?
Receive as written.
Thank you. Okay, so any last comments, questions? Okay, so I will ask a mover and a seconder to receive the recommendation as written in the report. Moved by Joan, seconded by Miriam, and all in favor. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. So next we have other business, which we have none. And public question period, we have none. So don't run away yet. In camera, we don't have an in camera. Oh, we do? Oh, that's what this one is, in camera? Oh, sorry. In camera, recommendation that the Board of Directors meeting move to in camera to address matters pertaining to personal information regarding an unidentified individual, including authority staff. Yes. Okay, so may I please have a mover and a seconder to move in camera? Moved by Mark, seconded by Tracy. All in favor? And that is carried, and we will move into camera now. Okay, so we're just come out of camera. We've had some discussion, and there were no decisions made in camera, so we are at this point receiving the verbal report that took place in camera for information. And may I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Joan, seconded by Lance. All right. And I think that is all for this meeting. We will have, a first water protection meeting to follow, which I think will be fairly quick, so please don't leave us. And I need somebody to close, right? So I need a mover to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Margaret. Okay. Thank you. So the next meeting is our source water protection meeting. So I will call that to order. I will ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Mover and a seconder for the minutes of the last meeting, which was on May 15th, 2025. By anyone? Miriam, seconded by Joan. All in favor? Carried. And the adoption of the agenda for this one. Tracy and seconded by Margaret. All in favor, the agenda, carried. Delegations, none. Presentations, none. Business arising from minutes, none. Corresponding with none. New business, update on section 36 amendments. There's a staff report attached. Did anybody want to speak to that report? That's good. You want to speak to it at all? Do you want to put it on the floor for discussion? Okay, so mover and seconder, right? So I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to put it on the floor for discussion. Adam and Joan, and go ahead.
Yes. Well, I'm very happy to inform you that the wait is over and finally the MECP and the Source Water Protection Committees came to an agreement. So, and the whole issues was about the prescribed instruments. And in the section 36 amendments, it was asked that the MECP puts in minimum requirement on how they actually address significant threats when they do inspections. And the SPC wasn't happy with the way they reported. So, and it took the MECP like a year to actually review the whole new plan, and then decided we don't want to do that, what you asked. So, and then basically the SPC and the project manager negotiated with the MECP on new wording on how they can address what they haven't done. So, and the outcome of this now is basically when they do see prescribed instruments, the MECP has to put the wellhead protection area, the IPZ, the drinking water system at all, and what they actually do for measurements to address the significant. And so the whole report was submitted again. And it is anticipated that it's going to be approved for January 2026. So this will be the last short meeting. And after that, we have to discuss a lot of things.
Very good. Okay, thank you for that report. Any questions? Comments? Oh, so very well written, I guess. No questions. All right, so the recommendation, we already put it on the table for discussion. The recommendation is that the report proposed amendment section 36 updates to the Ganaraska Source Protection Plan and Assessment Report be received for information. So we have a mover and a seconder already to bring it to the floor. So I will ask all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you very much. So we don't have any other new business. We don't have any in camera, so I will ask for somebody to move to adjourn this meeting. Joan, thank you. So if anybody is interested in going on Monday, please stick around and we'll figure that out. And otherwise, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Thanks for your attendance today.
Thank you.
Thank you.